In Arcane Studios' Dishonored, the player takes control of Corvo Atano, the former bodyguard of the assassinated Empress. You have been framed for her murder and wrongfully imprisoned by the real political conspirators.
Yes, he's killed the Empress. I'll see you beheaded for this, Corvo.
Upon escaping prison, you set out to avenge the Empress. Dishonored's game design relies heavily on a choose-your-own-path approach. This, coupled with the fleshed-out morality system, makes Dishonored a great case for studying player agency and moral decision-making in video games. Sebastian Domsch studies how moral choices impact the way in which we play games. When playing a video game, the player will have to navigate different sets of rules. First and foremost, there are the rules that make up the game system. These rules are rigid and predetermined and prescribe what the player can and cannot do. They are as straightforward as stab someone and they die. Get stabbed too many times and you die. These rules are inherently valueless. They only determine how a game can be played. It is through valorization that value is ascribed to the rules of the game. This is what determines how a game should be played. In Dishonored, it is clear that we should avoid getting stabbed and should aspire to neutralizing the main target. Without valorization, there is no way to win a game. However, how we should play the game gets further nuanced once moral decision-making is introduced. Game valorization and real-life ethical valorization function similarly. Both prescribe an agent with a desirable way of acting. However, an interesting tension arises when both kinds of valorization are present in the game, as is the case with Dishonored. This results in two ways the player can make decisions, based on gameplay rationality and based on narrative morality. When playing as a rational agent, decisions are made in favor of winning the game, regardless of the narrative implications of the player's possibly immoral actions. In Dishonored, the player has a wide range of highly lethal weapons and abilities at their disposal, some of which are borderline biological warfare. When playing as a rational agent, it makes sense to use all the tools available to you to win the game. You can stab, shoot, and explode your way through a level. However, it is clear that such actions are morally abhorrent were they to take place in real life. Dishonored's chaos system ties these gameplay decisions to the narrative. If Corvo kills a lot of people, his allies will eventually come to detest him, and the end of the game will be quite pessimistic. This way of playing is dynamic and exciting. It allows the player to engage with the wide variety of mechanics available to them.
Formerly High Overseer, is no longer a citizen of Dublin. He now bears the Heretics brand, and by one of the oldest traditions.
The other option is making decisions based on narrative morality. In this case, the player makes decisions based on what is ethical within the game world. Dishonored also affords the possibility of playing completely non-lethally. This approach severely limits the tools that are viable, as only a handful of them have non-lethal functions. Playing the game like this makes the gameplay a lot more repetitive. Clearly, playing the game in a moral way makes it more difficult to win. The tools you use and the way you play are strongly limited by the decision to play morally. The result is, in my opinion, less interesting and less enjoyable gameplay. But on the other hand, this approach is narratively desirable. When playing non-lethally, your allies will regard you highly and the eventual ending will be much more positive. Playing the game non-lethally limits the mechanics the player has available to them. This approach mainly boils down to choke out a guard, hide his unconscious body, repeat until eventual success.
Until a new High Overseer is chosen.
What makes Dishonored great, in my opinion, is the fact that this tension the player experiences between gameplay rationality and narrative morality is reflective of a similar tension experienced diegetically by Corvo. Everything indicates that he was a good and honorable person who has now been, well, dishonored. His empress and lover, the one he was supposed to protect, has been killed by the most powerful people in the Empire, and the entire city of Dunwall now thinks he is the killer. He has been reduced to working in the shadows, one man trying to restore order and justice to an empire. To top it all off, he has engaged in this universe's equivalent of a deal with the devil.
And to make things interesting, my mark.
Which is the source of his supernatural abilities. Now he has to fight against all odds while trying to maintain his humanity in the process.
Killing me won't solve anything.
A narratively moral player will feel a pull, a temptation, to shift towards a gameplay rationality approach, to break free of the limitations imposed by morality, to use all the tools available in spite of their lethality, and ultimately to shift towards the more fun gameplay experience. Similarly, Corvo is also tempted to stray from the moral path. Where the player's temptation is gameplay rationality and the many mechanics available to them, Corvo's temptation is vengeance and bloodlust, the desire to bring justice to Dunwall, all the while destroying everything that stands between him and said justice. This is Dishonored's real dilemma. How far are you willing to go to reach your goal?
What is that noise? Oh no. No, no, no.